in our country. And let me thank all of our panelists for being with us. And let me thank the senators who I know are going to be filtering in as the hearing progresses. My understanding is that Ranking Member Lindsey Graham has a scheduling conflict and will be making his opening statement after our witnesses testify. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Social Security is, I think, as everybody knows, one of the most popular and successful.
Huge news, there is a new stimulus schedule for eligible Social Security, SSI, and SSDI recipients. President Biden has confirmed that he will be taking executive action to address the rising cost of living across the country. Now here's some big news from the Biden administration. The Transportation Secretary told CNN that President Biden is working to fortify the economy amid steep inflation with efforts to shore up the supply chain and invest in the capacity of our economy to keep up with demand. He also stated the president made clear inflation is his top economic priority, and he's laid out a very clear strategy for doing that. So this is really good news, everybody, as inflation continues to reach record highs. So Buttigieg said the administration will continue to take the steps that are both on the price side and on the growth side to keep the economy strong. An ABC News poll shows the economy and inflation are top of the mind for voters ahead of the midterms. According to the poll, only 37% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of the economic recovery. The current inflation rate is 8.2%. And Buttigieg told CNN that the president has proposed a number of things to help improve the economy that could be passed by Congress, including lowering the cost of insulin, childcare, and housing. These measures make a difference no matter what happens. It will make life easier for Americans who are facing these economic question marks. Gas prices, which are at a record high after increasing for months, are also a concern heading to the summer travel season. The current nationwide average is about $4.84 a gallon. About 2 months ago, Biden announced plans to release 1 million barrels of oil per day from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, saying that at the time, he expected this to bring down gas prices. In early April, executives testified before Congress, disputing the argument that they are price gouging customers. They claimed the situation is complex and that the near-term increase in the supply of oil and natural gas could help. And the Hawaii governor proposed sending a tax rebate to every Hawaii taxpayer. Taxpayers earning less than $100,000 per year would receive $300, and those earning more than $100,000 per year will receive $100. The Hawaii legislature has approved the rebate, but details for distribution have not been released. Payments may begin processing in late August, according to the State Department of Taxation. Also, Idaho Governor Brad Little signed a bill that allocates $350 million for tax rebates to people in Idaho. There are 2 criteria for eligibility: full-time residency and file 2020 tax returns, or a full-time residency and a grocery credit refund return. Each taxpayer will receive around $75 or 12% of your 2020 Idaho state taxes, whichever is greater. The rebate is also applicable to each individual taxpayer and each dependent. The tax omission will first issue rebates to taxpayers who received refunds via direct deposit, then send paper checks as well. Like Idaho, Indiana found itself with a healthy budget surplus at the end of 2021. The governor announced that Indiana taxpayers will get a $125 one-time tax refund after they file their 2021 taxes. There is no income requirement, and residents must have filed a state tax return for the year 2020 by January 3rd, 2022 as well. Folks, do you think that President Biden is doing all that it takes to send the fourth stimulus check, or do you think he needs to do a better job on this?
Successful government programs in the history of our nation. For more than 80 years, in good times and bad, Social Security has paid out every benefit owed to every eligible American on time and without delay. And I think it's important to make that point. We live in a moment of great insecurity, and yet Social Security, since its inception, has never failed the American people and remains a program enormously important to them and one that they can rely upon. Not once, over more than 8 decades of operation, not during the pandemic that we're in, not during the Wall Street crash, has anyone ever received a letter or a phone call from the Social Security Administration saying, sorry, the economy is not doing well, we need to cut your benefits. Never happened. And if I have anything to say about it, it never will happen. Today, while many people take Social Security for granted, it's been around for a long time, let us remember, before Social Security was created in 1935, about half of our nation's seniors were living in poverty. Today, though the poverty rate is still too high for seniors, that rate is just 8.9%. 50% before Social Security, less than 9% today. Got to do better, but that is a significant improvement. Without Social Security, it is estimated that some 22 million Americans, including more than 16 million seniors, would be living in poverty. Yet, despite this
Jonathan, I guess it surprised everyone, and it will surprise the Fed even to get such a hot number. But as Roger Ferguson told us earlier, market expectations, they don't necessarily want to shock. That's not where the market is. It's not what they've been laying the groundwork for.
Right. Well, I think that this is one of those circumstances that actually may require the Fed to surprise the markets. What we saw in the data today was just a very broad-based increase in CPI. There wasn't much in the way of silver linings. It does look like there's not much sign that we've hit a peak in terms of inflation. And perhaps more concerning today, the Michigan survey data showing an increase in longer-term inflation expectations, which has to have the Fed worry about their own credibility. So it does seem to us that they're going to prioritize having to get in front of this and to try and reinforce their credibility with an aggressive move up here.
So you've laid out the case of why they should do that, but do you actually think they will do that? Knowing this Fed and knowing how careful Fed Chair Powell is to telegraph all of the moves and to prepare the market for everything, doesn't it seem more likely that he would hike 50 and lay the groundwork for 75, or at least leave that option open this time, which he did not do last time?
Well, we think that's a possibility as well. We do think that a 75 is likely either in this meeting or in the July meeting, but we think that the argument for doing it now is stronger. It has the biggest bang for the buck in terms of the effect on the yield curve, and it also sends the strongest message that the Fed is very serious about reinforcing inflationary pressures. But you're absolutely right. The Fed is always reluctant in a hiking cycle to surprise the market. But I think that this is one of those circumstances that actually calls for an aggressive action that does surprise the markets.
Either way, we're going to have the hawkish rhetoric come back up. I expect Bullard probably and others to come out and say we're going to have to do more than even expected. What's going to be the impact on the economy, do you think?
Well, it seems for now that the economy is holding up pretty well. But I mean, this is one thing that the Fed may have to just live with. They're going to create a much bigger problem for themselves if they're not aggressive here, because if inflation expectations start slipping, their job is just much, much harder, and they're going to find themselves falling farther and farther behind the curve. It does seem to us that they want to position themselves to address inflationary pressures if they prove to be more prolonged. And the best way to do that is to get out in front of things and move the policy stance further towards neutral, and then they can react from there.
Today, while many people take Social Security for granted, it's been around for a long time, let us remember, before Social Security was created in 1935, about half of our nation's seniors were living in poverty. Today, though the poverty rate is still too high for seniors, that rate is just 8.9%. 50%.
Approximately 300,000 low-income essential workers in the state of Massachusetts will receive a relief check of $500 from the administration. The checks will be mailed to eligible Massachusetts residents starting on Monday, June 6th. The Essential Employee Premium Pay Program was passed by the Massachusetts legislature and signed by the governor in December 2021 as part of the $4 billion spending plan for American Rescue Plan Act funds. The House Speaker said on Twitter the legislature was proud to establish this program through the American Rescue Plan Act, and the essential workers who worked to keep the Commonwealth running during the height of the crisis deserve nothing less. In order to receive these payments, individuals must have lived in Massachusetts on or before June 15, 2021, or they must have been a part-time resident before June 1st. Eligibility will be based on filed 2021 Massachusetts tax returns, with individuals needing to have earned at least $13,000 with their total income falling below 300% of the federal poverty level. According to the Massachusetts state website, the lower bound of this range equates to working 20 hours a week for 50 weeks at a minimum wage as of 2021. The federal poverty level is set by the federal government and increases with household or family size. A single filer can have income of no more than $38,000, and while the number goes up to $52,000 for two people, it also increases for more of those, for more people in the household. Now, individuals who received unemployment benefits in 2021 will not be eligible for the second round of payments, nor will Commonwealth Executive Branch employees who received or will receive a one-time crisis-related payment from the state as their employer. And here's some really big news. The President authorized the Defense Production Act to spur U.S. manufacturing of solar and several other forms of clean energy. The White House announced today that Biden authorized the Energy Department to use the Defense Production Act to speed up domestic manufacturing of solar panel components, energy-efficient heat pumps, building insulation, and electronic reforms needed for the power grid. The White House also announced it will leverage the power of the federal government's purse for clean energy, using federal procurement to increase U.S. solar manufacturing. The White House announced a 2-year suspension of anti-circumvention tariffs on solar panels that have effectively ground